And we're live. It is Thursday, which is really hard to say because yesterday was a day off and it feels like it should be Monday, January 2nd, 2025, the year of our Lord. It is 8 o'clock a.m. and you are watching Dog Shirt TV. And notice that the Dog Shirt today and I are wearing matching headphones because it's that we're, this year we're going to match. It's a revolution in morning television, folks. And one of the ways that it's a revolution in morning television is that sometimes your people come to you and they say, blah, 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 because you can't understand a word they're saying because they're saying something about pop culture and you don't speak that language. And you say, right. And that means that they're going to come on the show and they're going to talk about something that is so alien and foreign to you that it seems to involve Taylor Swift and movies and the season and a football player. I know she's dating Travis Kelce. I know that. So we're going to do that. And sometimes I sit back and say, WTF, and just the show happens around me. And sometimes that's what happens. We're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have Anna Bauer and Katherine Pompilio, famed video producer of makeup videos and other masterpieces. Guys, welcome to Dog Shirt TV.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, Ben. Can't wait to talk.
Yeah, so walk me through the subject of today's show, because it came up the other day. I said, right, we're doing it, and I still am fuzzy as hell about what it is.
Well, Ben, have you ever heard of the genre of movies called Hallmark Christmas movies?
Only because the other day there was an episode of The Daily about how some culture critic at the New York Times fell in love with them. And it did a kind of dissection of what the elements of a Hallmark Christmas movie were. And I was kind of dimly aware that they existed, but I didn't really have a sense of them until then.
Okay, so what were the elements that they went through, if you remember?
Did you listen to this episode, Katherine? So, let's see. There was a woman in her mid-30s who is very career-driven, who has to go to, for some absurd reason, has to go to a small town. And that town has some distinctive thing about it, like, they produce, craft beer or a widget or something. There's some little newspaper there. And she meets some guy, and his house is meticulously decked out in Christmas decorations, and I forget the other elements, but there's some crisis in which they fall in love, and there's some crisis in which she has to go back to the big city, and then on the way to the airport she turns around and comes back and lives happily ever after.
Yeah, I mean, that's one variation of it, but I would say that what the common themes of most Hallmark holiday movies involve either a small town girl or a small town guy who somehow connect with the jaded big city small town girl or guy, or a person who has left the small town, usually gone to the big city, comes a workaholic. Is the small town
ever Gainesville, Georgia?
No, but it looks a whole lot like Gainesville, Georgia. Every year when we have the chicken drop, or not the chicken drop,
And by the way, people, if you've never seen Anna's videos of the chicken drop
well,
from
it's the chicken lighting. I always, because there is
text
a chicken drop at New Year's, but it's the
text me the
chicken lighting.
video of the chicken lighting, and we will do a live viewing of it, because this is too perfect not to share. Anyway, while you're doing that, um, Gainesville is a chicken processing town, and so it has a lit chicken for the holiday, and it's
Yeah,
lit.
it has, and I'm gonna need a second to find it. I know that I tweeted it out, but okay. Point is just that um, uh, uh, it's there's always a variation of some kind of like someone going from the big city to the small town, or occasionally they mix it up and it's going from the small town to the big city. But it usually is big city, small town, and then the person discovers the true meaning of Christmas and love. And sometimes there's like a crisis where like a small town bakery is going to go under. Sometimes it involves property law because there's like land deeds involved. Sometimes there's a magical element where there's ghost or something like that.
And when did
But
this start? Is this like because
Katherine, do you know?
It's been around as long as I've been alive, so an age-old tradition. I think they use the same formula over and over and over again.
and there are like 15 of them a year?
Yeah. There's actually, I just watched an interview that one of the girls from Mean Girls, I forgot her name, but she has been in, I think, like 50 Hallmark movies or Lifetime movies where she plays the protagonist. And it's the same type of
Oh,
story.
Lacey Chabert, I think is her name.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and or something like that. I don't really know how to pronounce her name, but she was in Mean Girls. She was Gretchen Wieners.
Yeah. And she's been in 50 Hallmark movies or Lifetime movies.
Wow.
So the movies though that we watched are a little bit different because at least one of them is. So we watched this year, Catherine and I. They made two Christmas movies that were based on the love story of either of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, obviously the pop phenomenon. Travis Kelce, the football player for the Kansas City Chiefs.
And were they done with their cooperation, or is it like a loosely based um without their permission?
I wouldn't even say loosely based. I would say very much based on without their permission.
Excellent.
Yeah. And one of the movies is not so much based on them, but it is themed around them because it is like a Kansas City Chiefs movie. It's like about two people, like one guy works as like the social media manager for the Chiefs. Oh, are we doing the live viewing?
It's the Gainesville chicken lighting, which should feature in some Hallmark Christmas movie.
Some Hallmark producer is going to watch this, and next year, Anna, there's going to be a movie.
I'm telling you.
One year, the word on the street in town was that Hallmark producers came to scout out the square, and we were all so excited, and everyone was like, "Oh, we need to make sure to tell them about the chicken lighting."
It's romantic. It looks really romantic.
Not for romantic. The chicken. All right. We have two movies made without the consent of either Taylor or Travis Kelce about the ultimate romance. Who made them?
So one was made by Hallmark and one was made by Lifetime, which Lifetime and Hallmark both have these kind of homemade Christmas movies that they do. And even though it's a Lifetime movie, you still kind of call it a Hallmark Christmas movie because that's the genre. It's very confusing, but in terms of these movies having a genre, they're always collectively referred to as Hallmark holiday movies or Hallmark Christmas movies. Because it's not always exclusively Christmas, but usually it is. Sometimes,
And do
like
we assume that they both just independently were like, "Oh, this is the romance of the year. Let's make it," or was there some one of them announced it and the others like, "Oh, we can't let them do that." You know? It seems like a weird coincidence that but like nobody made a movie about Tammy and my engagement when we got engaged, and I just want to figure out how they got two.
And they're not even engaged.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. I do know that the Chiefs holiday movie, I think, definitely had more permission and probably took longer to make because they had actual members of the Kansas City Chiefs in the movie.
Oh, did they use their names? Like, was it Travis Kelce or
Travis Kelce is in neither of these movies, and I don't think gave his consent for his likeness or his thing to be used.
And do the people playing them look like them?
I thought they did a pretty good job of casting a Hallmark version of Travis Kelce in the one that is about his love story with this fictional Taylor Swift character. Yeah. Like he's like a tall guy, like has the kind of same haircut, kind of looks like he could be a football player and is very goofy. And Travis Kelce, if you know anything about him, is a pretty goofy guy, even though he has a lot of like charisma. What we refer to, Ben, as Riz these days.
Does he wear dog shirts?
No.
Just checking.
No, but it's, yeah. Do you want us to tell you about the plot?
Yeah. I want to know everything. I'm just controlling the pace here, stopping you for the basic questions that your average 55-year-old male writer would get tripped up on. So yeah, you guys go. The show is yours today.
So I would say that, yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
I was just going to ask before we do this, which one did you like better? The Chiefs one or the...
I only made it through like half of the Chiefs one because it was so bad. So I'm definitely going to say that and the Chiefs one, what we're referring to as the Chiefs one, is the one that is not so much about these fictional Taylor and Travis characters. It's about people who are either really big Chiefs fans or like the guy works for the Chiefs as a social media manager. He meets this girl whose family has run a long time Chiefs apparel shop in town.
All right, Katherine, which one did you like better?
The Lifetime one or the Taylor Swift one. Honestly, at some points, most of the time I was like, this is terrible. I actually had to pause it a couple times and like walk away from it and come back because I found myself like scrolling through Blue Sky or something while watching it. But there were some points in the movie where I was like, oh, this is cute.
Here's the problem with the film though, Ben. Okay, so
there's only one.
Yeah, well, there's multiple problems with the film, but one of the big problems with the film, all right, it tells the story of this pop star named Bowen. I think that's her name, right, Catherine? Mm-hmm. Who is, our Taylor Swift character. And it starts with her singing about how she's going to be alone for Christmas. And, they make all kinds of jokes about how she's had all these like indie musician ex-boyfriends, very similar, very Taylor Swift coded. And then she ends up meeting this guy who's a wide receiver for I don't really remember the name of the team, but the
Kansas City Weefs.
Is it the Bomber? I think the Bombers. Is that right?
I don't know where. Are they in Kansas City? They're somewhere not on the coast. That's all I know.
Somewhere not on the coast.
So real, authentic America.
Yes.
Not like
and if you know anything about Travis Kelce, Ben, it's that he also has a brother who is a football player He retired, but did used to play for the Eagles. And he in this film they make it so that he also has a brother who's like the best friend character, but the brother's the quarterback of the team. And Bowen ends up meeting this guy who's one of the brothers, Bonville. And don't they call him? Do they call him Bonnie or something?
Oh, Gonzo.
Oh, Gonzo, that's his
Yeah.
name.
Gonville is their last name.
Oh, Gonville. Oh,
And
that's
Gonzo is the nickname.
oh God, that's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, Gonzo and Bowen fall in love. But here's the problem because it's based on Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I mean, they're just two people who are dating and there's been no like big conflict or like problems in their relationship as far as any of us in the public are concerned. So this whole movie is just about these two people getting together, but then there's like no major conflict really. Like Catherine,
Right, which kind of defies the rules of both the genre, but also of any plot.
There is a conflict towards the like middle end of the movie, but before we get into that, we need to for Ben's purposes, I think we need to explain the actual real life Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce romance and how that came to be.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm generally aware of, like, I know what they both look like and that they're dating and that I'm supposed to be for them. And I know
but you don't
that
know the meet cute.
and I know that the whole NFL now codes left because, you know, like in the great national divorce, the left gets the NFL because of Taylor Swift, which is nuts. But
it's great too because they just gave it to us, like you know, to the they when the great Taylor Swift war was going on between the fans, the people who hate Taylor Swift just said, "All right, like I'm going to stop watching the NFL," and all of us new NFL fans like me said, "Okay, great, you don't have to watch the NFL. We'll have more fun."
And I know that Anna Bauer has a Taylor Swift's boyfriend jersey. All right, so what else do I need to know about the romance?
So you need to know the little details because throughout this movie they hint at them but make it so much worse and obvious. The way that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce met in real life, or I'll go back, Taylor Swift dated this guy, Joe Alwyn, for 7 years. Everybody thought she was going to marry Joe Alwyn. He was kind of this, like, as they hint in the movie, quiet indie actor type of dude who I will say I never heard of before Taylor Swift started dating him. Probably most people. And they break up. It's super, super dramatic, but not publicly. Mostly it's just people being like, why would they break up? I thought they were going to be forever. I can't believe this is happening. Poor Taylor Swift. She wasted 7 years of her life dating this guy. New album coming soon. I can't wait to hear all the songs. Taylor Swift drops, after she breaks up with him, she kind of has what we thought was like a single summer. And then she drops an album later on, which we find out she was actually dating this guy, Matty Healy, who's the lead singer for the 1975, who's also this like skinny little indie, not really indie, but skinny little rocker dude with like black hair, does a lot of drugs. And
like Ben, did you hear of Rat Boy Summer?
No.
Okay.
Generally speaking, if a sentence begins, did you hear of, and it's addressed to me, the answer is no.
Well, so there was a concept of men who look like rats were very in this summer. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It was like rodent boy summer.
See, I'm not into rodents. This
okay.
raises the capybara issue, but which we've discussed on other shows. But rodents, as a general matter, I'm not into them.
It's like really kind of hard to describe it. Basically, imagine what a man would look like who is like the chef in Ratatouille. Like that was what was like. Everyone like was all about men who look like rodents this summer. I don't know. It was a very weird fad, but Matty Healy was one of the like prime examples of like hot rodent men.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
that's if you need an image of what Maggie
I'm
Healy looks
I'm
like.
actually really glad I missed that summer. I'm not sure it would have been good for me.
Well, and just to get a sense too of his kind of persona, he's known to be kind of a huge troll. Like he's the kind of guy who will kind of like say things that really push the envelope in interviews. Sometimes he'll just make things up. He's British, has kind of that like bad boy. I'm the a front man of the 1975, which is this kind of punk band. And he also, at one point, did a show in Madison Square Garden in which he got a raw steak and just spent like 10 minutes on the stage, just like eating the raw steak in front of a sold out crowd in Madison Square Garden. So he just does kind of weird performance art things like that. And everyone was like, why is Taylor?
Projections?
Yeah. What?
Does he do projections?
He actually does because remember in his show, Catherine, he has a part of his show that was projection based, and so that's why in one of her songs she talks about his hologram appearing in her room. Yeah. But anyway, point is just that he was kind of this bad boy front man, and everyone was like, "Why is America's Sweetheart dating this guy?" And Catherine, do you want to tell them about the album and kind of how that connects?
Why don't you do the album, because I don't love the album, but that's
Oh, right. Okay. I love the album. I think it's the greatest like sleight of hand of all time from Taylor Swift because everyone thought this album called The Tortured Poets Department was going to be about her breakup with her longtime love, Joe Alwyn, the guy she was with for like 7 years. And then the album comes out, and if you listen to the lyrics, you soon will realize that actually there's maybe one song that is about Joe Alwyn, and this woman wrote an entire like 30 song album that is about a 6-week fling that she had with the frontman of the 1979 who everyone hates.
Valid.
And so it's a great album. I love it. But there are two songs that ended up on the album about Travis because shortly after Taylor Swift and Maddie Healy kind of wrap up their summer fling, Taylor is, we know from the album, just devastated by this and really going through it. And then she meets Travis. And Catherine, do you know the details of the meet cute and like how exactly it happened?
Yeah. So she's devastated. She's also at the same time doing her Eras tour, which was this like 2-year long global tour where she performed 44 songs every night or almost every night. And Travis Kelce has this podcast called New Heights with his brother, Jason, where they do a segment called New News where they just talk about their personal lives. And Jason mentions that Travis Kelce went to the Eras Tour show in Kansas City, where he lives and plays football. And Travis kind of goes on this thing about how amazing the show was, but how he's a little bit upset because he really wanted to give Taylor Swift a friendship bracelet, which is a thing that happens at Taylor Swift concerts. You exchange friendship bracelets. He wanted to give Taylor Swift a friendship bracelet with his number on it. And the clip that goes viral is Jason says, your football number or your personal number? And then Travis says, I think you know which one. And then podcast ends. That clip goes viral and somehow makes its way to Taylor Swift. She sees Travis Kelce talking about her on the podcast. And I don't know the exact details of how they started dating, but they were secretly kind of dating each other for apparently months. And people did know, like, there are clips where, like, either his teammates or sportscasters would ask, like, by the way, Taylor Swift, thoughts, vibes, feelings? And he just kind of smile and wouldn't say anything. And then one fateful day, there was a Kansas City Chiefs game, and in the box with Travis Kelce's family is Taylor Swift. And that kind of started this whirlwind that is the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce public obsession.
Okay, so I have a question, a meta question about this whole like we have just spent 25 minutes talking about Taylor Swift's dating as though that were a normal thing to do. And which we don't do with
It is a normal thing to do, by
okay.
the way.
No. I'm just saying. I'm not right, but like we don't do that with anybody else. And so my
You
question,
don't.
I'm sorry. Like who else do we do that with?
I mean, nobody else. Maybe Anna and me, other people.
Well, I definitely started a Rational Security episode a few weeks ago with gossip about Selena Gomez.
Yeah, but celebrity gossip is a different thing. This is 25 minutes where we're making shows about it. We're that is Hallmark and Lifetime both. We're like we're detailing her recent romantic history in some detail, and by the way, she's encouraging it by making an album. And so my question is,
She would get mad at you if she heard you say that.
Yeah, she would.
well, that's not really reasonable, I don't think. But my question is not that I've heard the album or although but I I want to understand how central her romantic life is to her public career. She like do these songs are they like is her romantic life a kind of feature, a kind of performance art that is either designed or in an integrated way feeding her public persona, her songs, her work? Or is this just because she's a celebrity that people are obsessed with and so she uses it? How calculated is this on her part?
I don't think it's calculated at all. And she would get mad at you for saying that. I think that a lot of people really are interested in her romantic life because she is so, and calculated is a word to describe it. I would say strategic in terms of what she reveals about her dating life in her songs. She doesn't really talk about it a lot in like interviews or doesn't post about anything a lot on social media when it comes to her personal life, but she reveals a lot in the songs. And I think a lot of people love that because they connect to it. And I know a lot of people think that there's a Taylor Swift song for every sort of romantic situation, whether happy or sad, that you can kind of connect to.
Look, I think Taylor is a woman who, like any good writer, takes the mantra "everything is copy" to to heart. And I think that she all of her songs are not about romance, despite the belief that she only writes about her romantic relationship. That's really not true. But I do think she's very, like, she has a song called Mastermind that's about how she kind of does everything on purpose, and she's basically kind of, it's people think it's a song about her manipulation of men or of her romantic partners, but really it's about her fans and about the public, because she's very good at placing strategically Easter eggs that I think she knows people will understand is a reference back to something that happened publicly with one of her, romantic partners. She's very smart in that sense, in that she understands what references people are going to understand who really follow her and her music. But I don't think that it's performance art in the sense that she's dating these men and having these romantic crises for the story. It's just that she understands the story is what drives her music and her art. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's all right. So let's get back to the movies. uh, what else do we need to know about them? It doesn't sound like either of them comes with a hard recommend.
No. I would I would say the way that Gonzo meets Bowen so back in the beginning of the movie, as Anna mentioned, Bowen is singing about how she's going to be alone for Christmas. Her manager is like, "Do we need to make this the single on the album? This is depressing. Your whole thing is relationships. Sing about something else." And she's like, "No, I'm single now. I just got out of this relationship with this indie actor. Wink, wink. Like in the real life Taylor Swift's life. I want to be single." And so Bowen does a concert, and the fake Travis Kelce, Gonzo, is already a huge a huge Bowen something fan. Also,
Arrowheads, right? Which
yeah,
is an Easter egg. Yeah.
Easter egg. They call Bowen's fans, because she's Bo, an arrowhead. She also wears a lot of bow jewelry, like the whole time she's in bees and bows, which is hilarious. But they call her fans arrowheads, which is the name of the stadium in Kansas City for the Chiefs. And also Taylor Swift has a song called The Archer, in which she does kind of this, like, she is arching and letting go of a bow and arrow. And Travis Kelce does that when he makes touchdowns, which is also a Taylor Swift reference. But he's a big Bowen fan, and he has a niece who is the fake Jason Kelce's daughter, who's also a huge Bowen fan. And so for her birthday, he takes the niece to the concert, and is having a great time, but people recognize him in the stands, and he's like, no, I'm just here with my niece. Gonzo's not that big of a Bowen fan. And then somehow they get backstage, which did not happen in real life. I was actually disappointed to see that there was no Hallmark version of the New Heights podcast. I think that would have been amazing to see.
Right? Which we need to talk about too. I feel like Ben would be Ben probably has no idea what we're talking about. So yes, we will explain, Ben.
All right, explain.
Go ahead.
Oh, we'll let Katherine finish telling the meet cute really quickly, and then we'll go into the New Heights podcast.
So yeah, they meet in person. They take a selfie, but Bowen's attention is taken away by something else she needs to do. And so there's a selfie of like Gonzo smiling, but Bowen's face is turned. They leave, and he can't stop thinking about Bowen and how amazing she is, but she'd never go for a guy like him because she's this international pop star, and he's just this wide receiver living in the shadow of his star quarterback brother. Which also Jason Kelce, they were not on the same team in real life, and he's not the quarterback, he was a center. And he eventually, I think, tweets out, like, "It was great to meet you, Bowen." And then he goes on a sportscaster interview. Anna, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Where he talks about how great Bowen was, and he publicly invites her to come to a game to see what he can do. And this also did happen in real life, where Travis Kelce said something along the lines of, "I've seen what you can do at Arrowhead Stadium. Come watch what I can do at Arrowhead Stadium." And so Gonzo, the fake Travis Kelce, says something to that.
I mean, that's what I always do when I'm courting somebody. I've seen what you can do. Come watch me write a column. Come to Lawfare HQ and see what I can do. Yeah,
I've seen you write on your computer. Why don't you come
see me
write on my computer?
Exactly. Yeah, it's. I guess when you do dramatic things like singing or throw flying objects and catch them, it's a little bit more dramatic than type.
Well, and I think it was extra cute, right? Because I think the stadium Travis plays in Kansas City, where he saw her do her show, is where he plays his football games, right? And
right. So there's a nice reciprocity there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so she ends up seeing the clip go viral in this fake social media world. And her manager, she still is like, "No, I need to be single. I just got out of this relationship with this rat boy. Like, I can't do this, even though Gonzo's cute. And her manager, I'm forgetting the name of, is apparently like a huge Bombers fan, and really, really wants Bowen to go on this date or go to the game because she wants to be in Gonzo's suite with his family. Which is also relevant to real life because Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce notoriously have this really cute family dynamic where it's the two brothers who play football and really love each other, and they talk publicly about how much they love each other. And they have their mom, Donna Kelce, who goes by Mama Kelce, who comes to all the games. When the Chiefs and the Eagles played the Super Bowl against one another, she wore a split jersey with half of it Chiefs, half of it Eagles, and she said she was rooting for whoever had the ball at the time. And then their dad, Ed Kelce, is also really cute. For example, in real life, he would tweet about how after Travis and Taylor started dating, he was listening to Taylor's songs because he wanted to be in the know and to be able to talk about them with her. So in the movie, the manager convinces Bowen to go on this date with Gonzo. The way the date works, because Bowen doesn't want anybody to know that she's going on this date with him or dating anybody, she sends him a car, or she calls him and she's like, I'll send you a car, be on the lookout. She sends him a car to pick him up at a certain time, and in the car is this box with a note attached to it that says, put this on. And the next clip you see is Gonzo in the full Santa outfit, complete with the beard and hat, and they take him to an aircraft hangar that houses Bowen's private jet, and he gets out of the car, sees Bowen at the top of the stairs of the airplane. He walks up into the airplane, finally takes off the Santa outfit, which she made him wear because she didn't want anybody to know that it was him. So I guess the people around her just think she's having lunch with Santa Claus or somebody dressed as Santa Claus.
As one does.
As one does, obviously. And they have a really cute date on this private jet. And that's where the love story in the movie kind of begins.
But Katherine, okay, so correct me if, and you need to get me to the end of the movie because I feel like I missed parts of the end where maybe the big conflict arises, but it feels like one of the big conflicts is whether or not they're going to go public. They obviously ultimately decide they are going to go public and be together. But then the other issue, if
That'd be a heck of a movie, by the way, if like the answer to that question were no. And you know, there's no scene where he carries her out on stage, or you know, it's just like they're at home sipping wine or something.
Yeah, there's like, I mean, there is a scene where they're at home sipping wine and they're trying to keep things under wraps, and they get caught by like the brother and his teammates hanging out, and they're like, please don't tell anyone. Oh no, this will be so bad if you tell anyone. And then the next scene is like a montage of like everyone finding out and they're all happy together and it's fine. But
we get to the end, it's important, while they're sipping wine, doing their secret date still, they're doing a puzzle, and because she just wants to do normal things and be a normal girl, so that obviously means puzzling.
It's like, why couldn't you do puzzles by yourself on your private jet?
No, puzzles are for normal people only. No international pop stars can do puzzles. But they complete the puzzle, but they can't find the last piece. So there's a missing piece to this puzzle. Take from that what you will.
Okay, yeah, and it's funny because she's like, I just want to do more normal things like this, and it's a puzzle.
All right.
But Katherine, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there is a villain of the film, it has got to be the rodent ex-boyfriend who also happens to be very different from Joe Alwyn, who's very private. This guy is like a full on, he has a GoPro with a camera attached to it at all times. Yeah. Like he's always streaming. And does he kind of come back? Like at one point he kind of comes up to her at a charity event or gala or something and is saying some mean things to her, but
so he the the small struggles that they're within Bowen and Gonzo's relationship is
I mean, you can't
Gonzo,
even say Bowen and Gonzo without laughing.
yeah, it's crazy. Um, there he is again. There's also like this weird kind of overarching theme about how he is living in the shadow of his brother, and he's not just the dumb jock. He has some substance to him, and he is different than all the other guys that she's dated. Which, by the way, really weird like scene that happens when they're on their second date, I think in her kitchen, where he's making pie for her or his mom's lasagna, and he spills something on his shirt, so he takes off his shirt, and there's like a 5-minute scene of Bowen just being like absolutely amazed by this shirtless Gonzo, because he's not like the other guys that she's dated in the past, aka he plays football and is not a
Right.
skinny rat boy. But the ex-boyfriend, they're at this gala, and Bowen is being pulled left and right by all of these industry people, and Gonzo's just kind of left to himself, which also would not happen in real life. I feel like people are interested in Travis Kelce, but that's another thing.
People would be swarming Travis Kelce trying to talk to him. Like, he's incredibly famous in his own right, aside from Taylor's
Right.
fame.
It's just
Certainly,
it's like you. I mean, when you appear somewhere, it doesn't matter who you appear with, people swarm you.
yeah, and
all right.
people are like, "Oh, you were typing on your computer."
Yeah,
so
exactly.
well.
All right.
So wait, he gets to this gala, he leaves, and because he's upset that like nobody's paying attention to him, and he's not just he's being treated like just the dumb jock boyfriend, even though he is not. And Bowen's ex, who calls her Bobo, comes up with like a ring light and a GoPro, and he is trying to get back together with her throughout the entire movie. So he's recording this conversation with them where he's basically like, come on, you know you don't want to be with this dumb jock. You know you want to get back together with me. And Bowen ends up saying something sarcastically, being like, oh yeah, I'm only with him because he's the dumb football player and I just needed to break from actors like you, but I'm never going to be with somebody like this. And the big conflict towards the end of the movie is he releases the audio of Bowen saying the sarcastic comment, but without the context. And so Gonzo hears it, and instead of talking to Bowen and is like, what happened? He just like completely is like, no, this isn't happening. I'm done. I knew I was too insecure to be in this relationship. I am not just this big dumb jock, and I know you think that way about me. So that's the big ending conflict.
Yeah, and it's an Easter egg of sorts, because if you know anything about Taylor Swift, it's that a few years ago she kind of had this public fall from grace when Kim Kardashian and Kanye West released an edited version of an audio conversation that she had with them about a lyric in a song that Kanye wanted to use about Taylor, and everyone started calling Taylor Swift a snake, and then that it was kind of the most turbulent time in Taylor's career was when this audio clip came out that made it look like she was, agreeing to something that she wasn't, or that kind of thing. She was later vindicated in some respects, in that it turned out that the clip was not the full clip.
All right. So let's zoom out for a minute.
Well, we also need to talk about New Heights, but we will still put a pin in that. But
put a pin in that. What does it all mean? What does it say about our culture and our cultural moment that we have not one but two fictionalized Hallmark Christmas movies made about this romance of people that we don't know, but we have this deeply parasocial relationship with? Is it just our modern version of the Kennedy family or the Royals, or or is there something more to it? Also, what does it say that this is an almost entirely gendered phenomenon? That is, that, that there is, you know, that this is a phenomenon among women, and specifically women below a certain age, such that you guys have to explain it to me in the kind of detail that we have just gone through.
I mean, look, it certainly is very gendered, and the film itself and the kind of gender roles and stereotypes that it puts forward are, also very heteronormative, like all of those things. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. I do know that Taylor's music as a gendered phenomenon, I think uh it's interesting because I think that what it represents is that, like, Taylor Swift is someone who takes women's pain and emotional internal world seriously. And I think that she has a level of songwriting and of craft that is very different from what I find in most female pop stars and male pop stars as well. Uh, and I think that truly she is an artist in terms of the storytelling, and the willingness to, again, say something about uh, the internal world of, women, or whoever it is that she's writing about. um I think that our obsession with it, though, is very much similar to, like, I was going to say, when I was thinking about this genre of film, there have been movies that Hallmark and Lifetime have made about, for example, the Kate Middleton William love story, where they, met at St. Andrews or wherever it was, and got married, and it's kind of this romance of a woman becoming a princess. Similar, they also did a similar film for the Meghan Markle Prince Harry thing. So I think that these people are kind of seen as American royalty. If we had royalty, it would be Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And I would need to think a little bit more deeply about what is it that people so love about this romance between these two people who really are. I mean, Taylor is pretty interesting, I guess, but between, it's not really an interesting love story, and they're not the most,
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the tricky bit about it, which is that, as you said at the beginning, nothing happens. They have to, for the purpose of the script, they have to manufacture this taken out of context audio clip, um, because in fact the story here is girl meets boy, girl likes boy, girl famous, boy famous, couple famous.
So something I will say is that, and a part of it is, there's this one thing that people have said about Taylor's music recently is the Marvelification of it. If you are a Marvel movies fan, like the superhero films, one of the problems is that there is this ever expanding, they had the superhero films. Everyone loves superhero movies. It has these kind of timeless themes, just ingrained in American culture, these stories about Spider-Man, Iron Man, all of this. They start making the films, they have a core group of people. But as the films develop over the years into the Avengers movies and all these, kind of mashups between the characters, there's all these new series that Disney's doing, and they're all very self referential. Like, it starts to get to a point where you can't even watch one of these films without having watched the entire universe of other films, and all the jokes are in jokes, and everything is an Easter egg, and the people who really love it are obsessed with it, and like find a lot of entertainment and joy in it. But it gets to a point where it's too self-referential, and people have kind of said this about Taylor's life and her art, or her music as well, is that it's starting to get to a point where
you need a lot of footnotes.
You need a lot of footnotes. Like, Ben, when I was trying to create a playlist for you to get interested in Taylor Swift, it was like, I was like, oh, well, but I've got to do an annotated version, because you have to understand the backstory to even get the music. And so it makes sense that there's all these like thousands, hundreds of thousands of like obsessive Swifties who have been like me following it for years and years. And I get all the jokes, I get all the references. But for someone like you, it feels so alien coming to it that anyone would care about this.
Well, you have to walk in with with an understanding that it's a world, not and the comparison to Marvel is interesting, that there's that there are references to things that happened in other movies that are not theoretically related, but they are. All right, I want to zoom out to change the subject slightly. I'm going to remember the New Heights podcast, but you guys had an idea for Dog Shirt TV that I want to ventilate in front of the audience. It involved very spicy foods. And so, Katherine, tell us about your idea for what we're going to do on Dog Shirt TV.
The idea is ripping off the show Hot Ones.
And for those who are not part of this cinematic universe, what is the show Hot Ones?
Hot Ones is this fantastic YouTube show. I think it's on HBO now, where Sean Evans, the host, does these really in-depth interviews with various celebrities. But as the interview goes on, they eat increasingly spicy hot sauces on chicken wings. And by the end of every Hot Ones episode, they eat like this crazy, really, really spicy, 1,000 Scoville level hot sauce, and the guest is crying and drinking milk while talking about whatever they're promoting or while doing the interview. So it makes it super difficult. I will note that Sean Evans never seems to struggle when it comes to the hot sauce, but the guests are always like choking on the last.
And explain to me why a guest would participate in this show, because it actually seems like a pretty difficult environment in which to discuss whatever you're trying to discuss.
I think like every smaller, or at one point when it was a smaller interview show, the clips just go absolutely viral. And so if you're trying to get attention to promote something, which is usually what's happening on Hot Ones with celebrities, it's a really great way to kind of get yourself out there. I think for Sean Evans, it also it's really good interview strategy, because they're not really focused on, you can ask some kind of sensitive questions towards the end because they're not really focused on the question. They're focusing on not crying.
But I want to understand. So like Dog Shirt TV, it's not like celebrities are clamoring to get on Dog Shirt TV. Because, there are, including us, 14 people watching this right now. And so my question is, why would anybody do this with me?
Well, because it's fun. Everyone likes a challenge. But also the guy who does, I think one of the things that actually makes Hot Ones special is that the guy, is it Sean, Katherine? He's actually a really good interviewer. He asks, it's an interview show in a way that they don't really do interview shows anymore. It's very like, he will have very pointed questions and novel questions. He's not just sitting there yeah, they're on there to promote. So there will be like one or two questions. It's like, tell me about this project. But for the most part, he's asking really interesting kind of questions of these big celebrities that I think gives them an opportunity to reveal something about themselves to a very large audience that they wouldn't usually have the opportunity to do.
I
So who should be my first guest? I mean, we can't use chicken wings and hot sauce, but for our ripoff of this, who's my first guest?
Someone has nominated Scott Shapiro in the chat.
But it's not like Scott is especially inhibited without. Um, but yeah, no, that's an excellent idea.
I
Uh,
mean, look, I am a formally nominating Emil Bovey to be your first guest because that man would not show. I'm convinced that man. It doesn't matter how hot it is. He would just stare you straight in the face and answer your interview question. Wouldn't even sweat. Wouldn't even cry.
scary.
how about you, Catherine? Who do you think the first Dog Shirt TV Hot Ones guest is?
Quinta Jurassic. I want Quinta Jurassic to eat.
I don't know that Quinta eats hot foods, but we can find out. All right. Before we wrap, you wanted to say something about a podcast called New Heights.
Yeah. Okay. So the podcast we were talking about called New Heights is a podcast that Travis Kelce does with Jason Kelce, his brother. It's like a sports podcast, but they occasionally veer into, pop culture and that kind of thing. The reason that I wanted to bring it up though is there's this interesting kind of thing that's happened with the Taylor Swift romance and the popularity of the Kelce family that they were already quite famous, but they've become even more famous from this, Taylor and Travis relationship. And recently, there's been talk, of course, of who is the left's answer to Joe Rogan. Well, Kylie Kelce, who is the wife of Travis's brother Jason, just started a podcast that has surpassed Joe Rogan, which has apparently led to like a meltdown amongst Rogan fans that Kylie Kelce's podcast has more listeners than Joe Rogan does. But the New York Times did a profile of Kylie Kelce about this. And it was interesting because the question or premise of the article was, is Kylie Kelce the left's answer to Joe Rogan? The reason being that she describes herself as aggressively leaning left. She doesn't shy away from talking about politics. I'm not a listener of the podcast, so I can't really speak to her positions on various things. But unlike other podcasters who, for example, during the Kamala Harris run for office, declined to have Harris on the show, Kylie has said that she would have politicians like Kamala Harris on. And so it's just interesting that out of this whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce phenomenon, you could very well have what some people are calling the left's answer to Joe Rogan in Kylie Kelce.
So that's super interesting. So are you convinced that Kylie Kelce, who, as I understand it, is the sister-in-law of the boyfriend of right? She's like, this is real cinematic universe stuff. She is not competitive with Joe Rogan without the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift romance, or is she just a phenom podcaster in her own right?
She definitely capitalized off of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's romance, but I think as soon as a lot of people started paying attention to her in this cinematic universe, she's known as the people's princess. Taylor Swift is the princess. Kylie Kelce is the people's princess, and people love her because she's very regular and seems very normal. And it's kind of like celebs are just like us. And her podcast is called Not Gonna Lie, where they talk about, I've listened to, I think, one episode, but I've seen clips online. It's like other celebrities who are moms talking about like raising their children. Or there's mentions to Taylor Swift, kind of, but not really. It's not very Taylor Swift coded at all. It's mostly just kind of like her life as a mom and an ex wag, living life, talking to other people from Philly that are moms that are and celebrities.
Interesting. All right, we are going to leave it there. We will be back tomorrow. From now on, we are requiring that guests eat hot foods. Anna Bauer, Katherine Pompilio, you are great Americans. I will see you both in 30 minutes at a regular Lawfare meeting. I have learned a lot. And remember, we're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have parasocial relationships with modern Kennedys and royals chosen in our ineffably democratic nature by social media clout. Ciao.